Welcome to Things I'll Take It From Here, the podcast where we dive into the stories we grew up on, just watch, and also can't stop thinking about, to explore what else could have happened. Each episode, we revisit the plot, rethink the characters, and respectfully, though sometimes disrespectfully, imagine how else things could have gone down. I'm Cammie, your host and fellow fiction overthinker. Join me and get unreasonably invested in the stories we just can't let go. Today we're talking about the movie that made an entire generation believe cloning prehistoric murder lizards was a solid business plan. It also taught us a crucial life lesson. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. If you haven't guessed yet, we're talking about Jurassic Park. Now look, I wasn't even alive when this movie dropped, but the way it raised me, it had a grip on my childhood. Even if you weren't a 90s kid, you felt this movie's presence. It was everywhere. Lunchboxes, backpacks, cable reruns, Halloween costumes. And we all know that one person who swore they could outrun a raptor. If you can't remember who that person was, I'll help you out. It's the dude who thinks he could square up with a bear now and win. Critics called Jurassic Park a game changer, and they were right. It was scary, smart, suspenseful, and fun. But then they kept going. The sequels, the reboots, the military-trained raptors, the clone girl, the biblical plague of GMO locusts. And you know what? Some of it honestly did work. If dinosaurs were real, governments would absolutely try to weaponize them day one. Eventually, the franchise shifted from what if this could happen to let's throw a raptor at it and see what sticks. And now with another movie dropping in 2025, I thought it would be a good time to revisit the franchise and also talk about what we could possibly see in the new movie. So let's talk about what still hits, my version of the franchise, and what I'd love to see next. Before we drag some of the choices that were made, we're going to talk about what they did well in the franchise so far. First off, the original movie still clears. The suspense was unmatched. That T-Rex scene with a cup of water, tension on a silver platter. Spielberg said, "You know what's scarier than a dinosaur? Silence." And we all felt it. The sound design alone had us flinching. They did their big one with the cast too, because when I tell you I am a Jeff Goldblum stan because of this movie, I am not kidding. I mean, this movie made him a pop culture icon. Homie got dragged by a T-Rex, ended up laid across the table like Rose getting ready to be painted like one of those French girls, and Hollywood said, yes, give him the sequel. The rest of the cast, honestly pretty solid too. Sam Neill gave I will turn this field trip van around energy the whole movie. Full on F them kids vibes, but in a gentle, responsible way. Like, he didn't want to babysit, but he also wasn't going to let them get eaten. Now, Laura Dern gave calm, capable, and casually elbows deep in dino poo like it was just another Tuesday. And let's not forget the lawyer who got snatched off the toilet. I mean, that was petty. That was personal. That was art. They said, you thought this was a safe space? Not on this island. Now, were the sequels messy? Absolutely. But they had their moments. When Julianne Moore was dangling from the trailer and the glass was breaking while she was hanging off the side of the cliff, that was instant anxiety. The raptors in the tall grass, that's still terrifying. It was giving dino serial killers. But we can't forget about that San Diego chaos sequence. It was the first time we saw dinosaurs in our world. And to me, that was peak Jurassic Park. The last of the original trilogy gave us a Spinosaurus throwing hands like it had something to prove, and that iconic river cage scene. It's still a banger to this day. I have nothing else nice to say about this movie, so I'm gonna move on to the Jurassic World era. That is when things really took a turn. When the giant dinosaur that was like in that pool area shot up from the water and snatched that woman from mid-air, I could feel the audience collectively gasp and clutch their pearls. Listen, say what you want about Jurassic World, but one of the biggest highlights for me was the Indominus Rex. She wasn't just a dinosaur, she was a brand. She had marketing power. That girl could have had a makeup line and a Netflix docuseries. The movie actually scratched upon something really interesting with her. What happens when capitalism and science team up to make something nobody asked for? It was chaotic, it was extra, and honestly, I loved every second of the Indominus Rex on the screen. Then we get to Fallen Kingdom, and suddenly we're at a dino auction in a gothic mansion, and you know what? I bought it. Rich people doing shady stuff with its extinct animals completely tracks. The whole black market setup was weirdly believable. Like, I can absolutely see a T-Rex skull going for millions on the dark web next to NFTs and stolen Van Goghs. But that's kind of where my enjoyment stopped with that movie. I think Dominion tried to bring it all home, not always gracefully, but it had heart. Bringing back the original trio, a solid move. And while the locusts were a lot, the thought of using bugs to collapse the food chain, low-key terrifying and honestly a bold swing. But you guys, out of nowhere, Netflix dropped Camp Cretaceous and then its sequel, Chaos Theory. Camp Cretaceous takes place during Jurassic World, but follows 6 teens stranded on Isla Nublar as the park collapses and the evacuation's finished. It's animated, yes, but the survival stakes are real, the characters grow, the emotional arcs hit. And by the time they finally make it off the island, 5 seasons later, the dinosaurs have already made it to the mainland. They survived 5 seasons to come back home to more dinos. Then Chaos Theory picks up years later. Same kids, now older, dealing with trauma and shady biotech companies. One character goes undercover and we get to see how shady things get when dinos enter the real world. The writing is tighter, the tension feels earned. If you slept on these shows, you missed some of the most thoughtful Jurassic storytelling out there. Okay, so now that we got that out of the way, let's talk about fixing 2 films in the original Jurassic Park trilogy. Before I dive in, let me just say this up front. I'm leaving the first Jurassic Park movie alone. Yes, some parts haven't aged perfectly, like a 12-year-old somehow rebooting the park's entire system, or the fact that all of the critical infrastructure was left in the hands of one underpaid, overworked tech guy named Nedry. But are we really surprised that a billionaire cut corners, hired one guy to do the job of 10, paid him garbage? I'm not. But still, Spielberg brought something incredible to life. He built a world we felt. But now, it's time I take the reins. All right, so follow me. Imagine this. InGen is bleeding. The company is being torn apart by lawsuits, public outrage, and government investigations after the fall of Jurassic Park. So they launch a bold new campaign, a rebrand, a redemption arc, and they call it Ethical Recovery. They say it's a humanitarian rescue effort to save sick dinosaurs suffering from a mysterious illness on Isla Sorna. They claim they'll isolate the infected and transport them to a state-of-the-art mainland sanctuary. But PR like that needs a hero, a face that the public will trust. Enter Sarah Harding, who was played by Julianne Moore. She's a wildlife photographer, researcher, activist. She snapped gorillas in war zones, she's tracked wolves through the Arctic, and she has helped save endangered species with just a camera and grit. InGen tells her they believe her lens can help save the world and understand why these creatures deserve saving. And she says yes because deep down, she really does want to protect the dinosaurs. But Malcolm, he doesn't buy it. He says, "You think they found ethics? They just found better PR." Still, when Sarah heads to the island, he can't stay behind. Not when he loves her and he knows how shady InGen is and what they're capable of. So they return to the island. The jungle's dense, the air is thickened, it smells like rain and rotting leaves. We keep the iconic hanging trailer scene. We keep the serial killer raptors. But this time, Sarah and Malcolm stumble on something much bigger. A massive cargo freighter hidden on the far coast of the island. Inside, rows of tagged, crated dinosaurs. Hundreds of them. But here's the thing. They're not sick. They're perfectly healthy. Then they hear a voice. "Load them up! We need this ship en route to San Diego by morning!" Sarah and Malcolm sneak aboard, pretend to be crew, and for days they gather footage and evidence, and they uncover the real plan. These dinosaurs aren't being exported. They're being sold off to a private zoo for the ultra wealthy. So imagine Jurassic Park, but with no oversight and just for the 1%. While on the ship, a huge storm hits. Power flickers, systems fails, and one by one the cages give way. Dinosaurs break loose, roaring in the darkness. It's giving Jurassic Park meets Titanic. Malcolm and Sarah barely make it to the deck, dodging claws, teeth, chaos. They escape on a lifeboat, drenched, shaking, gasping. Minutes later, the freighter, out of control, plows into the San Diego harbor, and the dinosaurs escape. And this time, it's not just one or two, it's hundreds. We get images of a raptor stalking a strip mall parking lot, a T-Rex thundering down the freeway, and a herd of stegosauruses trampling a golf course. The public panics and engine scrambles. This was a humanitarian shipment, a tragic accident. But Sarah releases the footage and the lies unravel. Headlines explode, and the world starts to ask, now that they're here, what do we do? Now that's The Lost World, rewritten with real fallout, not just a few loose dinos, but the start of what will lead to a global reckoning, and we'll see governments panic and then all eyes turn to Costa Rica, which would bring up Jurassic Park 3. Picture this. It's been 1 year since the San Diego incident. The world watched in shock as a T-Rex rampaged through a major city. Governments promised oversight, and global leaders feared the dinosaurs might migrate, nest beyond the island's borders, or threaten nearby trade routes and airspace. So, under mounting international pressure, the Costa Rica government authorizes a salvage mission to Isla Sorna, a final sweep to stabilize the island and contain any potential spread. But behind the scenes, a private contractor embeds operatives into the mission, and their goal isn't cleanup. They're there to test military-grade behavioral technology in order to weaponize dinosaurs. Now, Dr. Alan Grant is pulled back in when a man shows up on his doorstep. The man is his brother-in-law, Marco. Marco says Leo, Grant's nephew, is missing. No contact, no answers, and he blames Grant. Leo worshipped you, dinosaurs, the island. He followed your lead. You told him to stay away, but you didn't stop him. Grant had mentored Leo, and he really believed in him, but he warned him about the island. And Grant feels like maybe he didn't do enough because Leo ended up signing up to be a consultant for the salvage team. And now no one has heard from him. Marco says the Costa Rican government blames the storm and says they're sending a second team to investigate what happened. But Grant's not buying it, so he volunteers to go to the island and join the team himself. He wants to bring Leo home. Now, from the moment Grant and the team land back on the island, something's wrong. Grant was expecting to be met by scientists, and instead, he's met by armed men in tactical gear. Their equipment starts disappearing as they explore the island, and they're told cameras cannot be on in certain areas of the jungle. And anytime they ask about Leo, the answers are always vague and shifting. While searching the island, Grant finds raptor tracks. Signs of a kill, but it's too clean, too strategic. And the rest of the dinosaurs, they're not hunting, they're just hiding. And the ones that aren't, dead, slaughtered, and not for food, but just for sport. Meanwhile, Leo is alive, but barely. He's trapped inside a camouflage jungle lab forced to work on a neural mapping system, a prototype interface for controlling raptors. Every blink, every breath, every twitch of the tail recorded and analyzed. This isn't training, it's control, and it's working. Grant ends up actually finding the lab and he sees what they've done. He moves in with a small group ready to extract Leo and expose everything, but they're spotted. And the lab guards, they don't use guns. They use raptors, like a black ops unit made with teeth and claws. Leo makes a move. He hacks the neural network, overloads the system just long enough for the raptors to snap free and turn on their handlers. It's blood, it's fire, it's vengeance. Grant grabs Leo, they run through the jungle, through the chaos, through what's left. So that's Jurassic Park 3, retold as espionage and rooted in ethical horror. These rewrites improve on the originals by doing one thing that the sequels forgot, and I think that's letting the consequences breathe. In the Lost World, we see the world start to unravel, and in Jurassic Park 3, we follow that unraveling all the way to the source. There's more tension and more narrative weight. So that's the mess and magic of my Jurassic saga. If I were to reboot Jurassic World, I would probably focus in on shady biotech, dino black markets, and I would even add an eco-cult using weaponized locusts to collapse the food chain. And also neural tech turning raptors into killers for hire for shady corporations, billionaires, and maybe even governments. So Jurassic Park gave us so much to explore, and honestly, I could make several shows, movies, expanding the world even more, but I think that is enough overthinking. So let's talk about Jurassic World Rebirth. It is an upcoming 7th film in the franchise and the 4th in the World series. It comes out in July, and it's set 5 years after the Jurassic World Dominion. The planet has become increasingly hostile to dinosaurs, and the surviving species have been forced into isolated tropical zones. Zora Bennett, played by Scarlett Johansson, is a covert agent. She's sent on a classified mission by a powerful pharmaceutical company, alongside paleontologist Dr. Henry Loomis, played by Jonathan Bailey, and team leader Duncan Kincaid, played by Mahershala Ali. Their goal is to travel to a restricted island in the Atlantic, once the site of the original research facility for Jurassic Park, and they're told to collect DNA from the last 3 dominant dinosaurs. So 1 from land, 1 from the sea, and 1 from the air. The DNA is supposedly crucial to developing a groundbreaking new drug. Along the way, the team crosses paths with a civilian family, and they quickly realize this island isn't just home to wild dinosaurs, it's also crawling with abandoned genetic experiments, including a terrifying alien-like 6-limbed T-Rex hybrid. Gareth Edwards is directing. He's the filmmaker behind Rogue One and the creator, both incredible films in their own right. He's known for crafting immersive, self-contained stories with massive scale and grounded tension. So I have a strong feeling Jurassic World Rebirth won't be just another sequel. It might actually stand on its own and be a soft reboot that feels closer in spirit to the original Jurassic Park. Now, I'm sure Hollywood is probably eyeing this as a launch to a new trilogy, but with Edwards at the helm, I think this film could easily work as a standalone project too. And here's the part that gets me really curious. The screenplay was written by David Cope, the same writer behind the original Jurassic Park and its sequel, The Lost World. I think this suggests this movie might bring us back to the tone and tension that started it all. So with everything that we know so far, let's talk about some of my predictions. I think this movie is shaping up to be a tighter, survival-focused story that leans into biotech paranoia and dials back on the franchise's usual callbacks. The civilian family might end up being the emotional center of the film, or a chaotic wild card in an already high-stakes mission. I wouldn't be surprised if we get flashbacks or uncovered footage from the original Jurassic Park, tying to today's danger and to long-buried secrets and scientific recklessness. The pharmaceutical company, definitely hiding something, because of course they are. They're a pharmaceutical company, and Zora, played by Scarlett Johansson, might find herself forced to choose between her orders and her morals. As for that six-limbed alien-like T-Rex, I don't think it's just another hybrid. I think it's the result of something darker, maybe even something tied directly to the park's original legacy. Either way, I'm hyped. Hopefully a few of these predictions turn out to be spot on, and if they do, you all owe me $1 minimum. I'll be dropping a bonus reaction episode after I see the film, so we can break down everything I nailed or everything I completely butchered. Either way, it's gonna be a fun time, so make sure to hit that subscribe button so you don't miss it, and come hang out. I'm on Instagram, Twitter, and TikTok at Take It From Here Pod. Well, that's a wrap on my first episode. Thank you guys so much for listening, and I can't wait to see you next time.